Hello and welcome to the first half of this two-part Q&A with my sister about her surgery journey and her journey as a trans woman. All of the questions in this video were asked by you lovely lot on my Instagram and in the comments of the previous South Korea series that I did on my channel about her actual surgery journey in South Korea. As I've mentioned previously, these surgeries were very kindly gifted to my sister by Docfinderkorea and Nana Hospital. And now we've got through all of that, I present to you part one of the Q&A with my sister. Following on from the surgery journey part 1 and part 2 that I posted on my channel previously, I asked you guys in the comments of those videos and also on my Instagram, which is here if you fancy following me, just slide in a plug to ask any questions that you had about your journey, your experiences, and also, of course, the surgery, which was very, very kindly gifted to you by Nana and Docfinderkorea.
I'm Leah. Most of you probably know me already, and if you don't, hi, I'm Eleanor's sister.
Yeah. But yeah, let's crack on. Let's get into it. You know, when I first posted that this was going to be a series on my channel, there were people commenting that I was exploiting you for views.
You are, really.
It was really funny because I was like, if they met you, they would know that never in your life would you ever let me benefit from you ever.
No, any opportunity that I can have to make her life more miserable, I will use. So yeah.
I mean, have you not had siblings before? Do you not understand how this works? You don't ever try and help each other. I'm gonna jump into the questions from Instagram first, and then we're gonna move on to the questions from the video. Okay, first question, we're gonna open with a big one. How are those banging pairs of boobs going?
Yeah, they're banging. They were a real pain for the first sort of month or so. I think it's probably just getting used to it because obviously I was fairly flat-chested before.
Like, I mean, that runs in the family, because same.
I mean, I had like similar size boobs to Eleanor, and now I have bigger boobs, so it's a bit of an adjustment period. And obviously I have to wear proper bras and stuff now, which I could usually get away with out doing before. But yeah, it's nice now. I feel a lot more shapely, so. Yeah,
don't rub it in, all right? What was the biggest change from before to after the surgeries?
I think the biggest change is my jawline, because I had like a fairly blocky jawline beforehand. Not quite like a box, but it was fairly chiseled, and now it's much smoother.
When you look at the CT scans of the befores and afters of Leah's jawline,
it looks like they cut off like half my face.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
You look at it, it looks like two completely different skeletons. It was wild. I mean, it really was. I mean, and your nose as well. I think most people who get like nose jobs, they have a very firm understanding of what it is they want and like what they have, like pictures, and Leah didn't have any of that.
I literally went into the consultation and I said to the guy, the doctor, I said, I don't really know what I want, but you're the expert, so I kind of just trust your judgment. And he was like, that's perfect. Yeah, brilliant. I'll just do what I think is best. And I came out of surgery and I saw it and I was like, that is exactly what I wanted.
Good job.
So, yeah, you nailed it.
How was your recovery journey in terms of like swelling and bruising?
I had real trouble eating stuff, especially solid foods. I couldn't really chew properly. So
we had Korean porridge. I was like feeding her this Korean porridge every day and yogurt.
But like my jaw is still, the center of my jaw is still very swollen, sort of under the tongue base. But I think my nose is pretty good now. It's a little swollen at the top still.
Is it hard?
It's quite hard.
Oh, it is quite hard.
Yeah, it's quite hard. So it's still fairly swollen, but it's come down a lot, like a lot. I looked like Mr. Blobby when I came out of surgery.
I think the doctors initially were incredibly impressed with how fast you healed because you didn't really bruise or anything.
Yeah, I think after day 4, we got a visit from the Docfinder people, and they came and they were so shocked with how much I'd de-swollen already. I've got such a fast metabolism. Yeah. And I drowned myself in pumpkin soup, which also helped apparently.
I was expecting her to come out with black eyes, and I'd seen videos on YouTube of people having the exact same facial feminization surgery, and they were black and blue for weeks. And you came out and I was like...
Yeah, well, it was the next day, so probably 18 hours after surgery or something. And I looked at myself and I thought, I just look like I've eaten a lot, like I'm just storing food in my cheeks,
like a little hamster.
Like a hamster. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the overall de-swelling was really, really fast, but I don't think I bruised too much compared to others who've had similar surgeries, which is really lucky.
There were a couple of comments asking about the Adam's apple particularly, because you have quite prominent Adam's apple.
It's hell.
And a lot of people were very confused because they thought that was part of facial feminization surgery.
Depends on who you go to is the actual answer. Surgeons at Nana didn't offer a tracheal shave.
And that's because you also had a breast augmentation.
Yeah.
And because Leah had opted to have a breast augmentation and facial feminization surgery, the surgery time was getting very long for one session. A longer surgery time, obviously, it's increased risk. And so it's also quite a risky surgery to have.
Yeah, it's one of the nastier ones to have in terms of risk. So you need to have a really experienced surgeon who sort of knows and has a lot of experience in that particular surgery, because it messes with your vocal cords as well. It's because it's in your throat. Obviously, it's so close to a bunch of really delicate items. So you want to make sure that it's done as sort of a standalone thing. That's my philosophy on it, at least. I just want someone to dedicate time to just that and just make sure they get it right.
Why didn't you choose to get surgery done in the UK? Does the NHS not cover it? And if it did, would you have preferred to have it done in the UK?
Okay, so there's several answers to this one question. The NHS is fantastic, but it fails trans people.
It does.
And the reason that it fails trans people is that I went to the doctor for the first time saying, you know, I think I'm trans. And they said, okay, well, we'll book you in with the gender identity clinic. And the gender identity clinic has a wait list of 5 years, and that is for your initial appointment. So in 5 years after I decided that I'm ready to start my transition, I would have gone to the gender identity clinic and I would have had my first appointment, and they would have said, so you think you're trans? And that's 5 years down the line after I've already come to terms with everything. So it's completely unacceptable. And then after that, there's a wait list for surgery, which can go up even more years. So, top surgery is just something which is very rarely offered. It's offered in extreme cases.
And the reason for that is because a lot of people were asking in terms of like hormones. Leah's been on hormones for a while now. Like, you can't really get facial feminization surgery and a breast augmentation, for example, if you aren't on hormones. The HRT, it does grow breast tissue, but it depends very much on your genetics and when you start HRT.
And we've got awful genetics.
I have no boobs. I don't understand this.
We have
boobs. Where are mine?
Yeah.
Where are mine? And so
we really
Leah,
got shafted.
Yeah. So Leah, when she started HRT, there wasn't really much of a hope in hell for you, babe. I'm gonna be honest. There was no chance. So in many cases, people who start HRT, they do end up not needing breast augmentations because, they're blessed with genetics, but we are not. And also because Leah has quite a fast metabolism, you don't put on weight very easily either, which means that also hinders the like breast growth. So breast augmentation really was like the only way for you to kind of like consolidate where you're at in your head with where you're at with your body.
Yeah, the NHS is fantastic in so many ways.
Yeah.
But for trans people, it takes too long. I mean, being trans is, I don't want to use the term a race against time, but it is very time critical. I think it's a tricky issue because obviously some red tape is necessary, but it's an unacceptable amount of time waited.
Yeah.
And it would have been far too late for me.
Did you look at other countries before deciding on Korea?
I did. I looked at Spain. There are a couple of companies in Spain that do facial feminization surgery, but ultimately decided on Korea, also because of the experience of having it done in Korea.
The level of experience that the doctors you were offered it was off the charts. They were exceptionally experienced doctors, especially with the surgeries that you were interested in. And a lot of people ask, did I approach Nana or did they approach me? I actually approached Nana because at this point, we kind of recognized that the wait was too long for you, and we were kind of scrambling at like things that we could do to try and help push along your journey. And a lot of what we realized was going to have to happen was that you were going to have to get it done privately because of where your mental state was at, and that, waiting for surgery for a lot of trans people is detrimental to their mental health. Having waited until the age of 23 and then having to wait till you were 30 and the risk on your mental health and your mental state, like, you've just gone through a huge thing. We don't want to lose you potentially or anything. And so we looked into doing privately, and I did streams to try and raise money for Leah. I was giving money, like, we were trying to basically find these funds, and I came across some videos on YouTube of people who were trans who'd had facial feminization surgery in Korea, and watching these videos, quite a few of them were partnered with Docfinderkorea, and I reached out to them and I asked, hey, is this something that we could potentially do? Because I realized this was a way I could leverage my channel to give my sister a chance of being happy, and it was like a no-brainer, instant no-brainer. I think anyone in my position would have
Yeah,
done the
definitely.
exact
Yeah.
same thing, because Nana and Docfinderkorea offered something that is actually life-changing. They are not only the most professional, genuinely caring, wonderful people, but they are changing lives
And
every
I want to
single
say,
day.
you know, we're not just saying that because they paid for my surgery. I
Yeah.
was completely blown away, like beyond expectation at the hospitality.
Mm.
I've never felt more welcome anywhere, I think, than
Yeah.
I was in their care. It was insane.
Did your daily life change a lot after surgery? Are there things that are easier now than they were before?
I have a lot more confidence going outside now than I used to.
'cause you-
I used to spend a lot more
yeah.
time sort of figuring out different ways to wrap up different parts of my body before I went outside. So, you know, I'd wear long necks or turtlenecks, or I'd have something on my face. And, you know, the pandemic is perfect for trans people because you can wear masks. It's more clothes sort of fit my body a
Yeah.
little better now.
Like t-shirts and stuff?
Yeah,
I've
t-shirts and stuff.
noticed-
I'm a lot more
yeah.
shapely, so I'm no longer having to wear like big baggy clothes to cover
Yeah.
the shape of my body, stuff like that.
What was the most frightening thing for you about getting surgery and like going to Korea for surgery?
Honestly, I think the weight of what was happening didn't really hit me until I was probably on the table.
Like before you went under?
Nervous, to be honest. I was a bit nervous and just quiet, and the nurse looked down at me and she sort of
Oh,
She-
she told me something about this, by the way.
she just said, "You're gonna feel something in your arm." And I was like, "Oh."
You're like drifting backwards as if you're like going
Yeah,
back. You're
I'm
reliving
going
it.
back in, and I said, "I'm sure I'll feel nothing," or I just, you know, just put me to sleep. I'm ready to get it over with. I'm excited, whatever. And then I started to feel this really warm sort of ooze seep into my right arm, where obviously they'd plugged me
Nice.
into the anesthesia, and it just went all the way through my body. And I was just thinking, "Oh, I'm so peaceful here." And then I remember nothing after that. I felt like I woke up 2 minutes later and surgery had been finished. But apparently that's not what had happened.
The nurse told me, like, because I was really worried about Leah because obviously it's a major surgery. The nurse was like, "Don't worry about her." She was like, I'll tell you something that'll cheer you up. And apparently, as she got the anesthesia in her arm, you said you felt this oozing kind of like peacefulness and you passed out, you don't remember anything. Apparently, Leah almost shouted, "I'm high as fuck." And all of the nurses and the anesthesiologists were like, "What?"
I really was. I'm not gonna lie, I was out of it. Instantly out of it.
I laughed so hard. I was
have a
like,
very
that's
low
such a
tolerance for
Leah
stuff like
thing to
that.
say. Did it change your relationship, like our relationship? And I honestly think yes, but it wasn't even just like from the surgery, because me and Leah, we did not get on at all for like most of our lives. I would say we got along when we were babies.
Probably from when you were like 10 to when you were like 19, you were insufferable. Yeah.
I was insufferable. You never went outside. You never the only thing you ever said to me was like F off. Like, we had the worst relationship, and I just thought, okay, well, me and my sister are never gonna get along. And when you came out, you started to become more yourself. And I know it sounds really bizarre, but you were like the antithesis of everything you were when I was growing up. It was like you were finally becoming a person that you liked. And it showed. You were so much more sociable. You were so much more friendly. You would give me hugs. And I hadn't actually seen you, let alone had physical contact with you for about 5 years prior to that point.
Yeah, that's the power of estrogen, baby.
Also, going to Korea and going through quarantine, that was like a bonding experience.
That quarantine was something else.
Because
yeah.
I would not wish that on anyone, I'm going to be honest.
It was terrible. I mean, what? Korean government did their very best to make it as bearable as possible.
And as comfortable as possible, to be
But
fair to them.
ultimately, you are still locked in a room with fairly bad internet for 2 weeks.
With no windows that open. That's what
no,
got me.
no
It was the
open windows, no fresh air, no communication with anybody, and you have this voice that comes to you over the speakers 8 times a day in 8 languages, and it never shuts up, and you can't tell it to shut up, and it says the same thing every day.
You are reminded that you are not allowed to leave this facility at any point.
I'm not going to leave. I have to be here. Please.
That really bonded us, because I remember when I got out of that room and I saw you, I was like, you had the same dead look behind your eyes as I did.
We both had enough with reality at that point.
And
we were ready to jump out of one of the hotel windows, for sure.
And
that's why they locked them shut.
How old were you when you realized?
Oh, when I realized I was trans?
Yeah. Or when you started suspecting that you were
Okay,
trans?
so I suspected I was trans when I was 10.
Okay.
In
Did you know what trans was?
yeah, so well,
Because
ish. So obviously everyone growing up, at least in my generation, I know there's a lot of Zoomers watching, but in my generation growing up, you know, if someone says a trans person to you, you have an image in your head of what that looks like. And it's a completely false image. It's horribly stereotypical, but it's just what, you know, the media and everyone has pushed on you for so long. And so when I was 10, I had a conversation with one of my friends, and that's when I realized that I was the only person in my friend group who was imagining myself to be the woman in certain situations. But yeah, that was the first time that I sort of had that, oh shit moment. Like, oh,
it's just me.
it's just me. Okay, that's weird. Sure. And then when I was 13, that's when I sort of really started to feel it. And a lot of my friends were really female at that point. So, and I properly knew, as in like I had come to terms with everything and accepted my fate, as it were, when I was probably 16 or 17. Because when I was 17, I went off to uni, and that was definitely when I was like, oh my God, there was this amazing girl who was my neighbor in the halls I used to live in. And I was like, oh my God, do I want to be with her or do I want to be her? And I couldn't quite figure it out. And that's when it really sort of all dawned on me, and that I accepted that, oh God, that's not going to be good. And I've had the bumpiest road ever since. I was so well buried almost.
Yeah.
I didn't really come to terms with it, like I said, until I was probably 17, 18.
Yeah.
And even then afterwards, I was like, I'm just going to live my life as normal. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, I never came to this realization. I'm just going to struggle on. And as time goes on, you know, that becomes harder and harder to do, because those thoughts, they never go away, ever. You know, you can bury them, you can distract yourself, but at the end of the day, you're still lying in bed thinking, fuck, something's just not right. It's not clicking. Something's not right in its place here.
Because a lot of people have asked, you know, how did you come out and what was that like?
Okay, I understand we're very privileged in that our family is very open and very accepting.
Yes.
Obviously, it's scary anyway. I mean, if you're LGBTQ, regardless of how open or accepting people are around you, it's obviously terrifying. And it's even more terrifying if you're not sure if they're accepting.
Exactly.
But in our case, we're quite lucky. So I came out by essentially just telling my mum that I'm going to go and see the doctor about gender dysphoria, because I've had it for a long time and I'd like to sort of formally start a transition. And my mum was really upset for a long time, probably about a week, 2 weeks.
That's not really a long time. Babe.
Okay, for her, that's a long time.
Yeah, for mum, that is for her.
So, and, you know, she was terrified to tell my dad.
You know, because she was so upset. And just to make it clear, my mum is not transphobic. It's just...
If you're a parent and your child comes out as trans, it's like an admittance of the fact that they're going to have a really hard life. Because it's not easy. I mean, it's getting easier, but it is not easy. And
especially being a trans woman, it's legally, like, you can legally kill Leah in like multiple countries around the world. Even in the US, there's a thing called the trans panic defense. And so once you told mum and mum told dad, and dad thought that you had cancer or something.
He said, thank God, because he thought it was cancer, and that would have been so much worse. He just said, so what?
And that was, I think, so shocking for a lot of us, because we always thought that my mum would be the one that would be like, so what? Whereas I think because my mum is such an emotional woman, I think she understood the larger implications of what your life could be like as a trans woman. And I think that made her so emotional, because she knew that you were opening yourself up potentially to a life of ignorance, of people hating you without even knowing you. Whereas my dad was like, I don't care.
And she was right, for the record. There are a bunch of people who hate me and they've never met me.
You are literally just hating on another human being for no damn reason. It doesn't impact your life. I was actually the last to find out, by the way, that Leah was trans. And I'm the only LGBTQ person in our family. I was in Liverpool at the time with Jean. We were about to go to the gym. And I got a phone call from Leah, which was really weird because, like I said, we literally never spoke, ever. And I answered the phone and you were like, hey, and I was like, are you okay? I didn't even say hi. I just thought something had happened. I thought the house was on fire. I was like, why the hell are you calling me? And you went, yeah, I've got something to tell you. And I was like,
I'm gay, lol.
I think you said I'm trans. And just, there was this awkward silence of about like 15 seconds where I was like, I looked at John and I was like, is this a joke? And I asked you like 4 times. Are you kidding?
No, you didn't believe it at all.
No, because I
all those years of acting really paid off.
I know. Like, I've got a gay trans sister. Like, it's outrageous.
Together we make a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich.
The ultimate BLT! But I was just really confused because you had kept it so unknown for your entire life. Usually there are signs, and I don't think we had any signs. And I mean, I think you tried to like kind of appease us in that way, that you were like, let's slowly change the pronouns and let's do everything really gradually, because I think you didn't want it to be like an ambush of like, everything has to change right now.
And that's, you know, it's unrealistic to expect everything to change instantly. If you've been one way for over 2 decades, you know, it's going to be gradual. There's so many questions.
Oh God, there are hundreds. There are literally hundreds, but a lot of them are very similar. Are you happy with how your surgeries turned out?
So far, yes. Obviously, there's still a lot of deswelling to go, but so far, I'm very happy with it. I think it's coming into place quite nicely. First few days, absolutely not. I was terrified. I thought I was going to remain a hamster for life.
Yeah, you were a bit nervous.
Yeah.
And I kept being like, Leah, it's just the swelling. Don't freak out. It's just the swelling.
It did come down a lot very, very quickly, which is brilliant. And I'm very happy with where it's sort of settling now.
You can actually go and watch on Nana's YouTube channel them actually cutting up Leah's face, which...
Don't do it. But it is there if
disgusting.
You want it.
It's disgusting. I haven't watched it. No one's watched it in my family because it's actually vile. But if you were curious about medicine and you want to know how these things work in more detail and you don't get easily spooked by blood and surgeries, it is something that you can watch. And I think that that's really interesting as well, because being able to capture that entire thing.
I wonder if the doctor speaks, you'll fall asleep watching the video.
This is true. If it's like ASMR. If that man opens his mouth, like it's gonna be, whew. But it is like amazing that we were able to chronicle this journey, not just from, you know, before to after, but also
during.
So what is the next step in your transition journey? Do you want to have more surgeries, or are you quite content with where your body's at? Because some trans people, non-binary people, just having top surgery is enough, or having facial feminization surgery is enough. Every trans person is different, and you're not any more or less valid as a trans or non-binary person if you fully medically transition or partially, or you don't at all. You're still valid as you are. It's just what you as a person are comfortable with. So open
valid
the floor.
Bestie.
Valid bestie.
Immediate next step for me is looking somewhere to do a tracheal shave surgery.
Yes.
Obviously, you guys have seen my Adam's apple. It's a hellscape.
It's very, like, I mean, even...
It's like a full isosceles triangle coming out of my throat.
I could definitely do Pythagoras on that.
Oh,
like, for sure.
Yeah. Usually after a tracheal shave, you'll see some kind of change to your voice as well. So I'm just sort of on the lookout now for the best place to do it, I guess.
But is that all you want done? You just want the tracheal shave?
So obviously there's bottom surgery as well. It's a big stopping point for a lot of trans people because the wait lists are just insane on the NHS.
I mean, you're looking at 8 years.
Easily.
Like, minimum.
I wouldn't get it now until the mid-30s, which is just not an option. So I'm saving a lot of money, but it is a lot of money.
I mean, it can range. It's like 30 grand.
It can go anywhere from, 15 up to 30, 40. It really depends on who you're with.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of money.
I did get a lot of messages about people wanting to support Leah and asking if there was a place that they could, message her and potentially send her financial support, to help her with her transition, because as we've discussed, transitioning is exceptionally expensive. You haven't got a Patreon or anything
nothing,
yet,
but we'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out, and we'll leave a link down below. I also do streams occasionally to raise money for my sister's transition. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has supported, not just with your kind words in the comments, because it has been exceptionally wonderful reading through the comment section, which I don't think any of us really expected. I think we expected a lot more hate.
I was expecting the opposite, yeah.
And it's just been a pleasure to read through, and it's just really meant the world. But also with people who've been so kind and generous to try and financially support you as well in this, because
you saved me literally years. So thank you.
When you guys leave kind comments and like the videos, it helps this video grow and reach new people, people who potentially don't know what it's like to be trans, who are too scared to ask these kind of questions. And it really is just very kind and wonderful, and it really means a lot, because it means that we are, having a positive impact, hopefully, on someone who maybe before was scared of the otherness of being trans, and now you can kind of humanize that experience. And that's all because you guys helped boost the video in terms of engagement, and that helped it reach more people. So thank you so much for just being wonderful, and for supporting not only the videos, but more importantly, Leah herself. I was honestly having a bit of a cry when I was reading through the comments. They were so kind. But yeah, this is the end of part 1 and the end of the South Korea series for those of you who don't want to go and watch part 2 on my second channel. Thank you for all the love and the support. It's been immense, and this is really just been an unforgettable experience.
I'm so grateful. Yeah, it's blown my mind, genuinely. I cannot put into words the difference that it makes. So seriously, thank you.
Hope you're having a wonderful day. Don't forget to hydrate, and as always, give my kisses to your mother.